On December 2, 2014, the terror group Al-Shabaab raided a quarry in Kenya, separating non-Muslim workers from their Muslim counterparts. Later, these non-Muslims were executed. According to the Kenyan Red Cross, their bodies were found Tuesday, dumped outside of a quarry in a village called Kormi, near the Somalian border. Now, the question that arises from this is, can Kenya defeat Al-Shabaab in Somalia? My answer is a definite no for three main reasons. First, the money that Kenya receives as being a war on terror country funds the Kenyan economy. Second, Kenya has actually been working with Al-Shabaab on numerous activities. And lastly, Kenya has a weak intelligence agency. First of all, war on terror is part of the Kenyan economy, and it fuels it. The end of these terror attacks means the end of the funding for Kenyan economy. And the Kenyan government is not ready to give up these funds in order and stop the terror. So establishing terror activities is important to sustain Western funding in whatever means. And it is significant for their government in any way, shape, or form, even if it means thousands of innocent lives to be lost. Since 2003, Kenya has received nearly $50 million from the U.S. State's Department of Anti-Terrorism of the Anti-Terrorism Fund. It has also received unspecified training, equipment, and funds from the UK government. In 2012, Kenya received nearly $404 million in international humanitarian assistance, making it the 11th largest recipient of this assistance. Initial estimates for 2013 went around $500 million. Kenya has been the top 10 recipients of humanitarian assistance from 3 out of the last 10 years. And humanitarian assistance peaked to around $533 million in 2011 alone, when Kenya was the 8th largest recipient of humanitarian assistance. The US and the UK fund Kenya's anti-terrorism police unit, which has carried out several series of killings and enforced disappearances in its fights against terror for its country. If Kenya receives more than $400 million for humanitarian assistance due to violence, why should Kenya stop? If Kenya itself does not want to stop these terrorist activities, there is no way that the country will be able to stop Al-Shabaab. Secondly, constant UN monitoring group reports have revealed in Somalia that Kenyan Defense Forces have actually been working alongside and collaborating with the Al-Shabaab terror network in order to create a multi-million illegal charcoal business. A report by the Institute of Defense Analysis, or the IDA, on July in 2014 says that formerly a participant as the AMISOM peacekeeping forces in Somalia, the Kenyan military is also complicit in support of trade that is providing income to Al-Shabaab and its military components inside Somalia as well, and is also increasing the home security back in Kenya. This clearly shows the double standards of the Kenyan government, that in the eyes of the public, they do not negotiate with the terrorists, but they are actually sharing business investments in the charcoal trade that is used by Al-Shabaab to kill and maim people back in Kenya. Additionally, the BBC News says that Al-Shabaab has been luring men into becoming soldiers not because of religious aspects, but because of money. Men from Kenya have left the slums of Kenya in order to get the salary that Al-Shabaab has promised these men. Dozens of Kenyan men have left their wives, their sons, their daughters, and their parents just to earn money. Thirdly, Kenya has a weak intelligence agency, and dominant, corrupt, and unwilling security forces is also a major setback and is a close aid of the Al-Shabaab attacks in Kenya. From the Westgate Mall attack of the Lamu Islands, and most recently the Mandera border attack, in which Al-Shabaab claimed the responsibility of killing 28 people in a Nairobi-bound bus, security forces were tipped off by willing members of the society as well as the local government officials. And there was no follow-up on these attacks until the attack hit. On the other hand, the wanted Al-Shabaab members were found possessing true and original identity cards and passports, which they used in order to travel in Kenya as well as in Somalia. Overall, unless the Kenyan government addresses these issues and prioritizes the well-being of their citizens rather than their own self-interests, there is no way that Kenya is fit to defeat Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Thank you.
Right, that speech was